All right, we got Joe Whiteley on. It is Six Pack Lapadat. We got Arian Khamesi. And Joe, if you guys, I don't know, I mean, if you're not a powerlifting fan, maybe you're not familiar with her, but she's at all the world championships. So if you're a powerlifting fan, you should be. One of the voices of powerlifting at the Classic Worlds. We do those together. And some people might not be aware of some of the work you do with open powerlifting, which,
Yeah,
yeah, it's
yeah.
huge.
I wear a number of hats. We do the commentary, like you say. I do some of the commentary for equipped competitions as well. Um, and I do some of the writing for the IPF, so the hype posts on the Instagram. That's me as well. I look after the social media for the IPF, and I'm also a member of the Open Powerlifting team. So I wear a lot of hats in powerlifting.
It is crazy to me how in powerlifting you could have a couple handfuls of people doing so much. Like a couple
It feels
handfuls
like
of
a
people
lot. It
doing
does.
so, yeah. Like you take a couple handfuls of people gone, and it's like, holy shit, we got a lot of empty,
Yeah.
empty spots to fill. So I want to have you on, like, obviously, yeah, we've been working together for years now doing the IPF Worlds. You see all the different sessions. You've written articles, bless KOTL with it, and much appreciated. A lot of what you do, first off, let's get this out of the way. A lot of what you do isn't for money. You will ask us, I know, look at what are we talking about for budget? We'll make it work. I just want these articles to go out for the exposure of these athletes. And bless you, freaking as well as
You
like obviously
you didn't have enough space to fit everything I wrote. I know. I just kept writing. I kept writing because there was so much of
but
it.
but it is like I get like everything you do with open powerlifting, etc. Like you're doing it just for the love of the sport, making how amazing is it? How much do we take for granted that in a sport like ours, we have a freaking database like that, just a database like that. And for people who might take it for granted, this is nobody's making money. Like, this isn't a salaried
No,
position.
no, no, absolutely not. It's completely supported by the community. We have a Patreon, and some people very kindly donate a little bit of money every month to keep these servers running and everything. But we do not have advertising. We'll never have advertising. We don't have sponsorship. It's entirely supported by the community.
And I mean, obviously, with like a lot of the things from commentary, I know to writing of the articles, you're not going to make a living doing this. This is for the love of the game you're giving back. This is for the love of the game and making sure lifters get exposure
Yeah.
and fans of the sport have articles, have databases, have this. So that's why, yeah, 100% had to have you on and give you kudos because if people don't know,
Thank
they
you.
need to know.
Well, I kind
Um,
of lurk in the shadows a lot too.
well, I mean,
So
some of it, like some of the projects, like obviously, I want to get into open powerlifting, but some of the projects like that, when it's a database, you won't necessarily know, right? Of course, if you watch the live stream, you're going to hear your voice, you're going to see your
yeah.
name. But there's so much going on behind open powerlifting. People have no idea. How did open powerlifting come about?
Well, I wasn't there at the start. It's not my project. I contribute to the project, but it's not mine. It was started by Sean Stangle. And I think he just started off on his own. He was just trying to bring together a results database. And he was working alone. And gradually, various data geeks around the world found him and basically hammered on the door and said, yes, let me in. This is fantastic. Let me help you. I was doing something similar in the UK because when I started lifting, it was at a time when there wasn't really. I think we hit a bit of a low point in the UK. It was about 2013, something like that. Participation numbers weren't great. There weren't very many female lifters for a start. I would quite often be on my own, the only female at a competition. And a lot of the other regions had regional records going back years, and we didn't have any regional records. So I figured out that I only had to go back as far as 2011 when the weight classes changed. And I
Mm.
could put that together myself because I thought I might have some, if I could just put these records together, maybe one or two of them might be mine. So I spent ages looking for the results, historic results, and I struggled. I couldn't find them. There was no central place to get these results from. So I got them out of magazines, and various people had paper copies. So I compiled the regional records from scratch. Um, And then I looked around the rest of the country and I thought, well, some regions are doing this well, some regions aren't doing this well. But there's no one central place where you can go to see all the lifting, the results from all the lifting that's going on, even just within British Powerlifting, the IPF affiliate. So I thought, well, if no one's keeping those records, maybe I should.
Mm.
And I contributed a little bit to a website in the UK called Neilside, which was cross federation. He used database tables. It made it very slow, but it was what we had. You know, we worked with what we had. Sorting people's names out is always a big problem. Are you called David? Are you called Dave? You know, is it Nikki? Is it Nicholas? The variation on people's names is hard. So then you end up with one person 5 times in the rankings. So you have to do a lot of work just cleaning that stuff up. But when I found a very early iteration of open powerlifting, I basically demanded to be let in. It's like, I've got all this stuff, I've got all this data, let me in, I can help. So I threw all the British data at Sean. And then I started to look around for, well, not all the IPF data's in, maybe I could help with this. And I just kind of stuck. I think that was 2017, something like that. And gradually the project grew. It was so hard to use that website. Open powerlifting was so slow. You'd be really excited trying to show someone on your phone and it wouldn't load, and it would take, by the time it loaded, they got bored. They were long gone, you know.
You're like, fucking, I don't care anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. But then Sean is great at this stuff, and he put together a really performative website. We say it's the most performative website, sports website in the world. Don't know if that's true. I asked ChatGPT actually what was the best powerlifting website, and they said it was us. So I'll take that.
Really? Okay.
Yeah,
wow.
Yeah.
Well, they would know.
Well, it's a bit of a leading question, but you know, I'll still take it. And then it was always a big problem for me that the standard classes don't match up with IPF. There was no way you could get a sub-junior age class to work on the standard open powerlifting format. The weight classes were different. Everything was a little bit different. So I really wanted there to be an IPF specific version of the website. And it took us a little while tugging people's sleeves, trying to show people things when I was at competitions. And that was a great benefit, actually being at the competition to commentate or to compete or whatever, and to be able to tug on Robert Keller's sleeve or, buy someone a drink and say, let me show you what we want. Let me show you what we've got and what we could do. And eventually the IPF said, yeah, go on, we'll put our name to it. And we stood up Open IPF as well. And I spend all my time on that site. I'm looking at it right now because it's just so useful, and we try and keep all the IPF stuff up to date. Where the workload is huge, frankly.
I can't fathom. First off, I guess. Okay, I got a couple questions here about that. Picking up in the beginning. All right. And I understand you weren't like at the beginning, but like still 2017, there was a lot of work to do in terms of backlog, right? In terms of backlog, and some people are going to go there and be like, well, mine's missing from, I mean, you guys have stuff from first off, okay, like how far back are you? Because I remember having conversations with you and you have magazines that are decades old and you're logging them and just, do you find initially trying to catch up because there's so much time that's already passed, was that the hardest part? Or, and is it now because you're established in the community and people are sending the results in? Is it a heck of a lot smoother now in terms of results coming in? You don't have to hunt as much? Or do you find now, because you're so established, people just assume their stuff magically appears on your site, and instead of sending it in, they're like, why the fuck aren't my results up? And you're like, well,
it's the last one. It's the last one, definitely.
That's what I thought.
I think we've got these automatic processes that drag it all in from around the world. And to some extent we do. We have scripts for one of our key contributors, Matt Pierce, who sadly passed away last year. He wrote a ton of scripts, and he ran amok around the world, just importing entire federations at once. He was really committed and hardworking and brilliant, and the project has really struggled without him. But he was the one that ran about and go, okay, I've written a script. We can have all of Sweden. All of Sweden results are now in.
Sorry, when
And
you say
we've
run a script, I might not be the only one who doesn't know, but what does that mean? Does that mean like it's like a code that just will constantly forever on out grab this, or?
no, what it means is that you'll run a script for, and it will pull in. It will look at what we've got, look at what's on the Swedish website, and if there's any missing, it will try and import those into the website. There's generally a little bit of work to do tidying it up to get
Okay.
those in, but it means it's not as manual as it could be. That's easy enough for countries like Sweden that have a standard database on the website. But a lot of British powerlifting, even now, I just get spreadsheets through the post, through the email, and put those up. And it might be next lifter and it might be open lifter. And very occasionally it's something else entirely. I think it's a couple of years since we've had handwritten results sent in,
Oh,
which is good.
oh my gosh.
The whole point of Open Lifter, by the way, if you don't know, it's an absolutely free piece of meat software that you can use. You have to connect to the internet initially, but you don't have to be connected to the internet to run it. And the whole point of that was so that we could get results in a decent format that we can just import directly. People use, you use whatever you're familiar with, you use whatever works for you. The problem for us is quite often someone will literally take an image of a spreadsheet, embed it in a PDF, and then send us that. And you might as well just set fire to it. We can't get any data out of that. It's a complete retype. So we like spreadsheets to come in. We like CSV files to come in, and we get PDFs.
It's amazing how people will just be like, I'm just going to take I'm going to take a screenshot of this, even though it's available for them to give you in digital form.
Yeah.
I'm just going to send that to you. Just do whatever with it. Just get it done. And it's like, help. There's a bottleneck situation happening, right?
There's literally a button on there that says export for Open Lifter. Just hit that button, send us what comes out. And we don't get that automatically, by the way. People think they hit that button and all right, that's fine, they've got it. No, email us what it prints out. Email us the export, please. That's all we need.
And do you find, like, was it initially when you came on board in this project and it was like, we have to all of history to try to cover, I mean, to an extent, so people are going to hop in there and look at it like it's a historical database as well. It's where powerlifting history is housed.
But sorry to interrupt, Ryan. You
Yeah,
asked me earlier about if it's hard to catch up when you have all the historic stuff.
Yeah.
No, we started at the front and worked backwards. So let's get this year done, and then we can worry about, are we missing last year? And then we kind of work backwards that way. But we have got in British results the British championships going back to 1966.
Holy.
Every single one. And we've got every IPF competition ever held, apart from the 1995 disabled bench. If you can get me the results for that, we are complete for the IPF.
How satisfying?
Spent a long time looking
how
for that.
satisfying is it to be like, we just wrapped up 1996?
Yeah.
Like certain years when you're going further back, you're like, we're into the 80s.
Yeah, well, Jean Laflamme, USVI, Masters 4-lifter, probably one of the best Masters 4-lifters in the world. He is patiently going through the 1980s in the powerlifting magazines and converting them to spreadsheets and sending them in. I had a look the other day how many he'd sent in, and I couldn't even count them. There were so many. He started 2 years ago in 1984, and page by page, he's working his way through those magazines. It's absolutely incredible.
Jean Laflamme, in his 70s, deadlifts over 500 pounds, squats over 400 pounds. The guy is, I mean, I show Arian the DMs that he sends me, but if I post Jean Laflamme on King of Lifts, he'll get like 250,000 to like just hundreds of thousands of views, thousands and thousands of likes. And he, in the comments, because it's so like crazy what he's able to do in the 70s, in the amount of comments, hundreds of comments, every single one, Jean Laflamme is going to comment back and say, like, even if it's just a thank you, or even it's whatever it is, that's Jean Laflamme. So to hear that he's the guy who's, going in there and like meticulously going through year after, I'm not surprised. He'll help out. He's like every time I repost, like some people just, whatever, I got reposted again by King of Lifts. After a while, you start getting, if it happens often enough, you start, every single time he messages me, say, Ryan, I just want to say, you know what I mean? Like, he's that guy.
Such a nice guy. He really is.
Yeah.
And he's capturing his own history instead of messaging us and asking us why we don't have his best competition. He understands. He's there. He's recording the history as it relates to his own career. And I think a lot of us did start because we wanted to correct our own data or our friends' data, and then we just kind of hung around and kept going.
It's I think if all of us in this conversation have been around powerlifting that would predate this, right? Like I started powerlifting in 2008. Arian, when did you start, kind sir?
2011.
2011. Okay. Newbie. Okay. Welcome. When did you start, Joe?
2013 was my first competition, I think.
Okay. So, you know, when you remember what life is like before certain things were readily available or caught up to pace, you remember this. So when it comes along, you're like, fuck, that's pretty cool, man, that we have this now, that this is established. But when you come in the game and it's already established, it's a lot easier to take for granted and be like, well, listen, I think we could do this as a change. I think we could, but I'm not going to be a part of it. I'm not gonna actually do any of these changes. Don't ask me to put time. But it's easy enough when you come in after it's already established to be like, why isn't this better? Why isn't this faster? Why isn't it's like, man, it is very, very difficult. Sorry,
it is, but I think I think the website that we have now is about as fast as you could hope for. I'm on Open IPF because that's where my interest lies, really. I do commentary for the IPF, I write for the IPF. So I'm not an IPF, somebody described me as an IPF enthusiast the other day. That's just, it's where my work is, it's where I lift, it's where my interest is. So inevitably I have a little bit more focus there. But I was just having, let's see if I could see some of the data we've got at the minute. Yeah, 744,000 lifters, 45,000 meets, all hand entered by a handful of people, really. Any given time, there's only about 6 of us working on answering queries. Queries come in, so many queries come in to the site. It's never ending, and anyone who's worked on a help desk sort of situation understands how frustrating some of these inquiries are, because people are looking at a ranking that they've put all manner of filters on, and the email they send is, hey, your data's wrong, I'm not showing up. And you have to then go through a process of, where are you expecting to show up? What's your name? Is it an age class ranking? You know, it's really hard to just get to the bottom sometimes of what is it you want. It's nearly always an age class thing, masters rankings.
Is it so I was going to ask, how many people are involved? What kind of hours are put in a week, do you think? You know, I know weeks can change, but like, what do we look? This seems, I don't know how you guys manage it and have other work outside of this and other lives.
We don't. We've all got full-time jobs. We've all got training, families, all the rest of it. I have a bunch of other side projects, as you know. So when I'm away commentating with the IPF, I don't do any open powerlifting work at all. I just don't have the time. You know, it is when you're commentating, it's end to end, and then there's also the social media work to do. And last year I was away so much long haul travel next year. Definitely not doing as much this year. We bounced around the planet for quite a while. I think we did 4 continents in 6 weeks.
Holy smokes. That's
we
like
went from
you sound like a rock star right now.
I'll tell you what,
on tour.
Economy travel, it doesn't feel much like a rock star.
Well, that's true. Really doesn't. Some of the hotels, it is what it is. It's all.
We went from, I think we went from Europe to Kazakhstan. We were 2 days at home. We went to South Africa, maybe a week at home. We went to Alabama. And we also were in Canada last year as well, and Denmark. So it was a lot. I'm not going to as many places this year for sure. We're going to have a holiday with no powerlifting in it.
That's
the first time in years.
Where are you going to go?
Yeah,
we're going to Switzerland. It's our 20th wedding anniversary this year. And we're going to go and walk up an Alp again, something we haven't done since before I was a powerlifter.
So anyone listening, your husband, Joe, as well, and is first off, I mean, I was going to skip ahead to Sheffield, but both of you named part of Sheffield, the crews, the bands together. we're
Yeah, absolutely.
it's the same classic worlds team. So it'll have a bit of, so even though we're together like that, I think, how much different of a field do you think it's going to be for Sheffield? Because what I'm hearing in terms of ideas for production, people, when they think of, for instance, USAPL, they think a certain way with like the big, projectors in the back with the, big screens and faces in the back, etc. And then in the stream, which is different, right? The IPF one, the IPF stream, it feels a little more like you're watching the Olympics, for instance.
Yeah.
Like something on the Olympic channel, and that's
more like a sport than a show. More
like
towards that sort of
okay,
end.
all right. Well, there we go. But Sheffield is going to feel a little different than both of those. Sheffield's, which is interesting, despite the fact they're bringing in IPF people like ourselves from that stream. It is a different streaming team behind the cameras producing, etc. And they're going to look for a bit of a different feel. I'm very interested. It's like an actor who gets the lines and can read it, but doesn't know how the movie's going to turn out until the movie comes out. And it's the same deal where you can get the ideas on paper and some of the floor plans and setups and stuff like that, but I'm really interested on how this thing's going to appear. I'm excited for it for sure.
Well, I have an advantage that I've been to the venue because I was working at SBD back when this was planned in 2020. So I have been to the venue. I've been to the warm up and sat in the seats and looked up at the stage, kind of thing. It's a great theatre. Not sure I've ever been to a powerlifting competition in a theatre.
Yeah, it's gonna be different.
But it's all plush seats and gold braid and
oh god, hey, this is nuts.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
But we're in a different place. We're a little bit further away from the action than we usually are, which is going to change things a little bit because generally we've got a line of sight. We can see the coach and the athlete coming out. We can see the coaches lined up at the table waiting to put the temps in. I don't think we're going to have any of that direct line of sight anyway. I think we're a little bit away from the stage. So that's going to make it a little bit different again.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I'm sure we'll have like monitors everywhere, etc. But I know what you mean. It's everything's different. And like we just had Megan Scanlon on, and she was saying like we're so close at IPF Worlds, like sometimes you forget. Megan was mentioning how she came out for one of her last deadlifts, and I said, I have to say, I'm like, wow, that's a really heavy deadlift for Megan Scanlon, historically speaking. And she's like, fuck, Ryan, I can hear you, bro. But it's like, I have to say, this is part of the conversation. The viewer needs to know you're open.
It worries me. And in Halmstad as well, we were so close that a couple of times a referee that was sitting right by me heard me say something about a failure and gave a red light and sort of looked around and went, oh, I didn't see that. Thank you. Like, no, that's not how that should go. Well, but when you're close up, yeah, I do worry sometimes, especially when there's a big pull or something and all the crowd have gone silent and they're just waiting. And I think, can he hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Can he hear me thinking, this is a bit of an ambitious pull. It's a big ask to get this. And I try not to say anything negative. You'd never say, I don't think he's going to get this. But it does bother me that they may be able to hear us. It was nice in Denmark, actually. We were a little bit away and up. So we weren't in the same line with the production team as we usually are. But it meant we had that little bit extra distance to the platform. And I didn't have to worry so much that maybe they could hear me saying this is an ambitious attempt.
Well, the thing is, it actually helps in terms of the viewing public on the stream, far greater a number than those in-house. So then you want to set the table for them.
Yeah.
When they're watching, like, is this a crazy pull? Is this a Hail Mary? Why is this happening? And you need to be like, listen, this person is going all in. And if you set the table like that, if they hit it, oh my God, that's amazing. But if you didn't set the table like that because you want to be too modest, when they hit it, the viewing public doesn't quite understand just how special that was. So that's why it's like, look, I'm sorry if you hear me and I say, look, this is an ambitious attempt here. I don't know. We've never seen her pull anything like this before. Let's see. She's really pushed her chips to the middle of the table. When you load it like this, sorry, but I got to do my job because this is, you know, what I mean? Like if you're an athlete, you just got to do what you got to do.
And surely the athlete then is thinking, I'll show you, right?
Well, yeah, you would,
I
well,
hope
she
so.
brought it up later. Look, it's been almost a year and she's like, by the way, right? So yeah, it does. Going back to open powerlifting though, what are some of the things you think are misconceptions that people have about open powerlifting?
There's things that come up again and again. One of them is, okay, so this competition's been added, but my competition was earlier than that, and my competition's not been added because it's a volunteer project. I'm not here to allocate work to people, and some weeks that I don't have a lot of time, I'm absolutely going to work on the things that I'm interested in. I will put British results up first. British results, IPF results, I will have a priority with those. We have another volunteer who does USAPL and the French Fed, and someone else does the Swedish Fed and Powerlifting America. So we have people that do, we don't all just do our own federation. And once all the IPF results are in and British results are in, I do work on other federations as well. But if other feds results are going in faster than yours, that's because we have a maintainer. We have someone that's doing those results. If you're one of the feds that doesn't have a maintainer, then they're just going to have to wait until someone's got time to do it. It's not a system where this went in on Tuesday, so that has to be done before. You know, we will all prioritize the stuff we're interested in. And I think that's inevitable in a volunteer project. None of us are getting paid. None of us are at work. I log on every morning, and before I start work, my day job, I triage the requests that have come in overnight. I just kind of tag them to the federation or what sort of issue it is. Excuse me. And maybe there's a question to be asked. Someone says, can you put my Instagram up? And you're like, sure, what is it? You know, you've got to tell us this information if you want us to do it. So I can get the questions out and just sort of triage the issues before I start work. Excuse me. But I don't allocate those to anyone, even if I know that this guy tends to do this fed. There's no way I'm allocating that because I don't know. Has he got childcare issues this week? Is he on holiday with his family? Is he maybe just having a break from the project? So people pick it up as and when they can. And we're such a small team.
Joe, is there a knocking in the background there? Is there a knocking somewhere? Okay, never mind. Stopped.
Maybe it was me. Maybe it was me. I was rocking on my chair. Maybe.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, I think that was it. So it's such a small project that maybe 6 people, if that, are working on issues at any one time. So you email into the project. It kind of goes into an issue list so that anyone on the project can deal with it. And we do. People love to speak to a person directly and not just to email the project. So we find people do really like to go to the volunteers directly. And then if you don't do what they want in as fast as they want, you get some pretty horrible DMs.
See, this is where, okay. And we don't got to get specific, obviously, but because over the years, I'm sure you've got stories, right? Like, believe me, the same over here with like running King of Lifts. People, you know, will talk to you as though it's a personal thing. When it's like the world is so huge, and there's so many lifters, so many federations, and some people come at you with expectations, regardless. Like, no, some people take everything personally. Some people like they plan a picnic and it storms outside and like, just my luck. And it's like, no, it's not just your luck. It's just coincidence. So anyways, you won't have everybody always happy all the time, but anyone listening, to think about how much work you guys put in voluntarily, volunteer. When other people are chilling, watching Netflix, hanging out with friends, you guys get home from work to work hours logging database. And it's hour after hour, day after day, week after week, year after year, constantly. And if you 6 people just say, you know what, this is not worth it, fuck it, and walk away, this system stops. This
absolutely
database, the whole system stops. And people just take for granted.
We lost Matt last year, he was a young guy. He was only 28. It was really tragic. And he did so much on the project. So it was not just a personal loss for all of us who were close with that, but the project, I wasn't sure if we could carry on without him for a while. And we got very, very behind with a lot of things. Matt ran a lot of the scripts, and sometimes these things are a little bit personal, so you know the tweaks and the ways of doing it. So it's taken us a long time to get back on our feet again. We were up to, I think, 430 outstanding issues at one point. Right now, I think we're doing okay. We're at 309. I'm on here instead of getting that down under to 300 again. We used to panic if we got over 200, and now it's it is what it is. You do as much as you can. Yeah. The aim is to record every lift done under powerlifting that ever happened in the world. And that's impossible, right? That's just impossible. But we're going to try anyway. We're going to keep trying. We're going to keep trying to do it.
It's yeah, it's remarkable. And one person gone would be like, you could see now if you're down to 6 people now, right?
Well, it's a bigger cohort than that. Some people contribute in different ways. Okay. So some people might think, all right, I'm going to look after my federation. My federation does a comp. I'm going to put those results up. And that's fine. You know what? If we had one person doing every fed, then there'd be no work. That's all we need. One person from each fed that can interact with the project. It is a very technical project. And we learned a few years ago that if someone doesn't have the technical knowledge already, we do not have the capacity to teach it. If you know about Git, which is the system we use for adding and changing bits of the project, the whole project is basically one big spreadsheet, essentially, compiled to a website. But it's too much to learn. I started at a time when there weren't many volunteers and everyone was really fresh about the project. So a lot of people spent a lot of hours dragging me through knowledge acquisition about Git and the various commands I had to use and Python scripts and things like this. I had no knowledge of that sort of thing at all. And a lot of people were very, very patient with me for a very, very long time to get going with that. But now we find that typically a new volunteer will want to come and help, which is brilliant. But if they don't have Git knowledge, then typically I'll spend 4 or 6 hours with them trying to get them going, and then they will add one meet and then they will disappear forever. So you become a little bit reluctant to put that time into a new person, thinking 1 in 20 people will stick around. Is it you? Shall I invest in you?
You're right. Well,
but if you don't invest in them, then you can do all the work yourself forever.
Right. Well, I was about to say the return on investment for them on you was obviously paid off in spades, right? And first off, before I forget to, if anyone's listening, because this thing goes out globally, worldwide, if somebody has these expertise, or somebody is, at the very least, if you're listening, if you're even a member of your nation's federation, you're like, I can just help with records, results, just looking after your own backyard, and not to be on the project full-time, like you said. If you can put out a casting call right now, how best can they reach out and get involved?
Message issues@openpowerlifting.org. Everything goes to a central place. We can all see everything that goes in to that. It's kind of like a help desk software that emails in. And like you say, if we had one person on every federation, this would be easy. Then all we'd be doing all day is just making tweaks and sorting people's names out. People's names are a nightmare. They enter with different names every time they compete. And then obviously there's a lot of very common names. We have some people that we have 30 or 40 different instances of the same name. And that makes it really hard to disambiguate, which is the process of separating out which John Smith this is, sort of thing. And that's why sometimes meets are hard, time-consuming to add, even if they're in a format, because which Bill Smith was it? Which Jose Fernandez was it? You have to kind of look through, make a judgment. I think this was number 2, put him down as that. Sometimes it's not so clear. So it's very time consuming, really. If a meet is absolutely perfect and no disambiguations, it'll take about 10 minutes to add it. If it's a complete mess, maybe all day. Seriously. So really, we want everything coming in open powerlifting format in a perfect world.
Wouldn't it be lovely if every Fed had one person and sent it in open powerlifting format and just here you go? Oh my
That would
gosh.
be amazing. So if your federation, if you're listening out here and your federation, the results are a bit patchy or we don't have them, this could be your chance to put that right.
That's right. I also wanted to ask you, now that we're seeing this advancement in technology, I mean, obviously technology is constantly advancement, but very recently it feels like a lot more conversation about things like Chat GPT and we talked about earlier, but I've talked to, some coaches and just other people who are entrepreneurs talking about how Chat GPT already has cut their workload so significantly. It can code for you. It can write emails back for people when you're and it takes emotion out in terms. So you could say, write a reply email to this, make it professional but friendly, stuff like that. Sorry, go ahead.
Funnily enough, this impacts my day job. I work for a software company. You've heard of Grammarly? Yep. We're Pro Writing Aid. So Pro Writing Aid does everything Grammarly does in terms of, put a comma here, this is spelled wrong, do that. But we also use AI to be more of a writing coach, a creative writing coach, and also using that same technology for ChatGPT to say, okay, I've written this paragraph, rephrase it for me, and our software will give you, okay, you could do it more like this. There'll be some, you can tell us about tone, if you want this to be a little bit more, if you want it to be polite or a little bit more informal, and it will give you options to rephrase all your work. It's used a lot it's in the business space, same as Grammarly, and it can it's turned into an advert for my job, hasn't it? But it is AI driven, a writing coach more than just a grammar corrector. So yeah, working in that space, and obviously I'm not involved in any of the technical stuff. I don't know anything about all the really crazy stuff all the smart people do, but it is really exciting to be working for a company that's part of that.
It's I mean, you hear now. Well, first off, I got a buddy who told me we do like jujitsu together, so he's outside the powerlifting world, but he was telling me, just for fun, I asked one of the AIs, I don't, because there's a couple different ones. He's like, write me a script, and this is what I want the screenplay to be about. And the freaking thing wrote a script for him. And he's like, oh, not bad. And
did you send it to anybody?
This is it's going through. Okay. No, I don't know. But we are at a point now where we all saw the videos floating around about the guy who defaked Morgan Freeman, and it's the voice, it looked like Morgan Freeman, sound like Morgan Freeman, to the script, to everything. Things are starting to become automated. Kids now, when they go to school, are starting to have full-on beautifully written papers that they did not write. The world's changing quick. I don't know what it's going to be like in 5-10 years, but if this is where we're at now, holy smokes. But doubling back what this could mean for possibly open powerlifting, is there a way where you foresee like, okay, we might be able to start mitigating in terms of database collection and like having AIs that can comb the internet, grabbing things, or, is there hope at least?
That would be great. That's a little bit above my technical ability to even talk about whether that's possible. What I would like to see from to make it easier to import results from all over the world is a little bit of consistency. So if one federation says, okay, we're going to do results like this, if we know it's going to be like that every time, we can write a script and bring it in. So a little bit of consistency would do. Do we need AI for that? Probably not, but it would be great, wouldn't it, if it was just sitting there? We already have probes actually to check when federations have posted a new competition. So we're on our way there, really. There's a lot of automation there, but unfortunately we still need people to answer the query, to understand the problem, to put the issue right, with the name or the age or adding Instagram. I don't know, the number of people, about 1 in 2 requests to add the Instagram handle doesn't tell us what the Instagram handle is. And I don't know what you do about that. Hey, can you add my Instagram? Yeah. What is it?
Don't you hate
really basic stuff?
Do you hate when it's like, come on now, just that extra back and forth slows it down a little bit.
It
Or if
does.
they're
It
like, you
does.
should know who I am. They pull that kind of.
Maybe. We talked about taking it off just because it was a huge burden. But it's really useful for me when I'm writing for the IPF. And if I don't know a lifter, I want to tag a lifter, but I don't know. I look at Open IPF to see if they have their Instagram on there. So
I'll
for
tell
that
you right
reason
now.
alone, we've left it on.
I'll tell you right now. I don't know if you do this, Arian. I'm gonna assume when I'm scouting for preview shows, and I'm pulling up Open Powerlifting, I 100% just
Go
hit
straight
that,
to the Instagram.
yeah, to see how their lifts are going, as opposed to like, what's their name? And sometimes when you look at an Instagram, they don't even have their name anywhere on their Instagram handle or profile, so you can't find them at all with their name. So you're like, well, how am I going to do this? Whereas when Open Powerlifting has it in, it's like, oh, sweet. I'm checking out their history. Now let's see how their training has been going for this competition. And it's so smooth and easy for scouting. And I'm doing that, I understand, for preview shows, but I would not be at all shocked if coaches, when they're going into worlds and stuff like that, can do scouting like this. Like, Arian, have you used it like that as well?
Yeah, definitely. Because, like you said, some people don't necessarily use their name, or maybe if it's like a different language because you're from a different country, it's hard to find. So it's easy to just look them up in Open IPF and then click the link, and boom, I got all of their training footage.
And for like coaches, handlers, national teams, yeah, it's a nice ad, but it's more work. I mean, the work.
It's not much work if they do actually tell us what their Instagram handle is. The other issue is with Instagram, if you change your Instagram handle, it doesn't track. If you're logged as one and you change your name, you have to tell us about the change. We can't automatically track that.
Do you have
some people change every week?
Do you have people who are like, listen, where's my TikTok? I'm on my TikTok on. Like Gavin Aiden's wants his TikTok
on. Oh, really? Yeah, I can't see. I can't see adding TikTok. I just
listen, no TikTok, no YouTube. It's Instagram, and that's it for right now.
Yeah,
anyways,
that's it. Yeah, we had plans to do a bunch of stuff. We had the Russian version for a while, but it's too much work. We're not succeeding. We're not doing everything that's at the core of it. We're not getting all the competitions up quickly enough. There's competitions that sit around for like 3 or 4 weeks in the queue waiting to go on at busy times. So until we've nailed that stuff, then messing about with extra social media is not what we're going to do. What we really need to do is update Open Lifter. Time is the biggest problem we have, because Sean has to do the at least vet the technical work that goes on. Obviously we have people that come and contribute to it, but he's the only one really that can assess a technical change. And Open Lifter, we were going to do all sorts of things with it and add functionality to it, and we never have. It's still sitting there on almost version 1. So that would be a priority from my perspective if for our next big piece of work. Honestly, can't say when we can get to that. If anyone wants to work on Open Lifter, drop us a message at issues@openpowerlifting.org. You won't get any glory, you won't get any pay, but you can make a difference to powerlifting.
You won't get glory. The pay's garbage. Get some emails cussing you out. You tagging you in posts. Those. Tagging you in posts, talking to you like you're trash, even though you're doing it all for the love of the game. That's. But beyond that, how do you? Well, I want to ask you about records, so don't let me forget about that area.
Okay.
But how do you deal with that in terms of, because you're anonymous to an extent with Open Powerlifting, right? It's not front facing as opposed to, like, say, commentary. Boom, your name's on there and everyone knows. But does it help that it's anonymous, or does it? Because here's the thing. When you're anonymous and you're just a platform, people almost take for granted. So you can end up, people just they're just going to see what they don't have and trash you without realizing this is, there's people handing sources out around the world, but at the core of it is very few people doing very much work, and they're people. They're actually people. It's like when you're in a car and you get cut off, when you don't see their face, easy to flip them off, tell them all types of crazy stuff. When you look at someone's face and realize, oh, that's a person now. Like
Yeah.
that person's trying as hard
I
as they
think that's
can.
important to remember in all interactions on social media. It's very easy to think you're laying into the IPF by sending some vile messaging, but really, you're just making my day a little bit more shit, because that doesn't go to the IPF, that goes to me. And
Right.
I try and it's not personal, it's not actually at you, but still, when you're trawling through vile comment after vile comment, it brings you down. I'd love to say it doesn't bother me, and I try not to let it bother me, but it kind of does. Last week was a hard week. I got quite upset at some of the comments that were being made by people who should know better, really. And the some of the comments were so outlandish. You think, well, that's not even really an accusation, is it? You're just throwing about horrible things to say. But it's still, it doesn't make for a great day when you're wading through horrible, unnecessary comments. What I don't like is on the IPF page, when you post an achievement, a lifter world record, and there's horrible comments on that. Should be embarrassed, should be ashamed. This isn't powerlifting. Fine, have that conversation on Reddit with your friends over a drink. Have it on a different post. Talk to your federation if there's things you don't like, but don't slag off some fucking girl who's done a brilliant bench press. She's done an incredible thing. Does she have to look at all your horrible comments telling her she should be ashamed of what she's done? Really? I hate that. I hate it so much. The policy is always leave comments on, apart from a couple of exceptions, but I hate it. I hate it, and it makes me angry, and it makes me upset when I see people. You're not having a conversation about powerlifting rules here, are you? You're specifically saying to this specific person that what they've done is no good. And that's the thing that I find the most upsetting of all. I wish I could just get rid of all of that. Everyone would be banned from the IPF page for saying shit things if it was up to me.
It's tough. I know, like I feel it with King of Lift. Sometimes I'll post, and some of them I know if I post this, I have to keep an eye on this for the rest of the night and the rest of, because it can get away from you because there's so much traction. Like if we get 1 million people in a week, I'm not going to see every single comment.
No.
Like sometimes I need people to be like, and I have had people like, hey, you should jump in the comments for this post because you'll notice whatever. And I got to jump back in and start, some people are ruthless. Some people, like, it's not like they get personal on someone they never met. And it's like, hey, that's a person, huh? Like you're going at somebody, that's a person you're going at, right? Like be easy, man. Like, and some people, it's whatever, you delete or block or whatever the heck, or if it's legitimately just like, if it's sports talk, fine. But it's difficult, but
it gets really personal, and it can be really vile. And you don't want to block people from the account because that's a badge of honor then, right? I've been blocked by the IPF.
Right.
So you don't want to do it if you can help it. I don't understand this idea, though, that people message a social media account with vile comments, inviting me to kill myself or do myself damage because they don't agree with some rule change in a sport. It just seems to be the wildest overreaction. And also, I think, I look at these comments and I think, you're not that angry to send me this. This is just a smart quip for you. But honestly, to invite someone to do themselves harm because you disagree with a rule change or something that's happening in the sport is not acceptable behavior. It really isn't. If you wouldn't cross the gym to say it to someone, don't say it to them on social media.
100%. That's the one thing where social media has, it's definitely, it's just like the road rage situations, only amplified, where it's dehumanized somebody to an extent. So that's where like the IPF page is not your personal account. So then they're not picturing somebody reading this. And then again, it's not face to face. You can't, like, it's actually difficult. How many times in life have I been like, man, I'm really mad about this, whatever, it's at work or whatever it is. And then when you actually see your coworker, friend, or whoever it is you're super pissed off at, look at them in the eyes, you're like, it's actually a little tougher than I thought to tell this person off because they're a person. And you're like, oh, damn, they're human. You humanize them, like, oh shit, maybe they made a mistake. And then you end up saying your mind, but you're a lot lighter than you thought you were going to be, because you're like, Man, it's tougher than you think, man. We're all people. I could be on the other side of this. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Whereas it takes all that away. When it's social media and it's just a branding, it takes all that away. Whether it's open powerlifting or it's the IPF page that you're running or whatever. They're just like, wow, it's just like a entity that I'm going at. So who gives a shit? I'll say whatever I want. It's like yelling in the wind. Who cares? Well,
Yeah.
no, it's Joe Whiteley. Let me introduce
Yeah.
me.
Yeah, it's me. And Instagram's done a funny thing recently, certainly on that account, where you used to have to go looking for the hidden messages, but now they're right there in the front, and I have to navigate away from that. So once upon a time, I could wait until I was, sitting with a cup of tea, and I could take a bit of energy to look in there, because some people have legitimate questions and queries, and I want to be able to direct them to the right place. But now, as soon as I open the account, it's there looking at the message requests, and it means that I can't avoid seeing some of the horrible messages. There aren't that many generally. People post horrible comments on a lot of the bench world records. I don't know, one of them's got like 2,500 comments on it.
Oh my God.
I can't moderate that. I can't look through all of that and make sure they're all appropriate. In fact, I know they're not appropriate. When it's a smaller post and there's a couple of hundred in there, I can at least try and make sure that no one's getting attacked, or there's nothing really horribly vile in there. But really, it's just too big. There's too much of it to moderate effectively, and I really just have to let it go. And every single person that trains in IPF land tag the IPF in every bit of training they do. So the notifications is just insane.
Yeah.
If you're genuinely trying to notify the IPF or me about something, I will not say it. The notifications, they spin past. If you think that everyone in the gym that you're in, they're all tagging the IPF in every 40 kilo bench that they do. So I can't wade through it all. I really can't.
I mean, not to make it about Kick-a-Lifts right now, but I feel you, because people like, why are you ignoring, or what do you have against this guy, this girl? And it's like, do you understand the notifications are like, I can't possibly see that.
Yeah.
The only way I'm going to be able to see it is somebody that is already, I'm talking to in DMs, because so then they're in my primary or general. One of them sends it to me. It's a huge help. Or like a coach that I'm already talking to anyways is like Arian, obviously, if he sends it to me, or somebody that I already talked to is like Joey Flex is like, hey, take a look at this person. And he'll do it if it's not even his own athletes. Just like, hey, have you seen this? Thank you, dude. Because it'll get so lost in notifications. It spins over so quickly. And
they drop off the bottom really quickly. So they're going up, and you only have so many before they just drop off, and you've got another load of them. So if you are tagging the IPF hoping that they're going to look at something you've done, you've got no chance. I'm sorry. I just cannot. I cannot look at all of that stuff. I really can't. And we don't tend to repost training anyway. The only thing we post are world records and sort of news and hype stuff.
Yeah, it's at the very least, like, you are at a huge amount of the competitions. Obviously, with the databases, you're seeing numbers coming in. You're extremely involved, so you have a good temperature of the room. So it's tougher for things to skate by, and that's what helps is, like, for myself in my role as well, I can relate where at the very least you're doing the best you can. And in terms of, with open powerlifting, every single federation, it's such a crazy undertaking, tested, untested, wrapped, unwrapped. I actually wanted to, let me double back now to the records conversation. This is a tough one, because people will say more the all-time records. Okay. Because you'll have federations where standards, you're like, I'm not sure about this standard in terms of like the depth on squat or whatever. And then it becomes, what are we going to do here? I mean, because even the best of federations might have an individual lift that seems shaky, or, so it's not even, it's like, okay, well, fine. We don't accept any lifts from this particular fed, but then
it's difficult.
I know you can't win. You can't. Then people in that fed will be like, excuse me, let me point you to this USAPL up down deadlift, or this IPF shoddy depth on, like, what are we doing here? It's so difficult.
So what Sean said initially is we have to accept what the federation accepts. And that's the end of it, really. If you can point at a bunch of federations that have shitty standards, then make your federation better, honestly. We can't be the arbiters of what counts, what lift doesn't count. The second we say that wasn't to depth, we're not including it, then instantly we've got a list of 5,000 other squats that we need to look at and review. And that's not why we're here. We're not here to judge what, from a camera angle, what squat was a good squat or non-squat. There's no easy way around that. We've all seen things go on that you think, oh, that wasn't deep, that wasn't locked out, that wasn't a great lift. But you can't challenge. As soon as you get into challenge what the feds say, then you're lost, really. We'll need a team of full-time people looking at every lift that's ever done. And this is the reason why we don't have unsanctioned competitions as well. Because you might have an unsanctioned competition that's 4 guys with their friend refereeing and none of the lifts are any good. Or you might have big dogs. Now, we're not going to look at every competition that happens and decide, was that big dogs or was that some guy in the gym with his friends? Every unsanctioned meet falls somewhere in there. We've included things historically that maybe we wouldn't include if it came up now. Our go-to answer is no, because every day someone says they're starting a new federation, and we say, well, we're not taking new federations just now. There's plenty of federations out there that we can't keep up with. There's no real reason for you to have a new federation, so no, we're not going to include it. And then weirdly, that federation never turns up, never starts to exist. But what we'd like, if you really are doing a new federation, then go ahead. You have meets, hold meets, have a proper rule book. You're going to want to background check your officials for sure. You train your referees, have some kind of qualification for your referees, and hold great meets. By the time you've got 4 competitions done, your lifters are going to be screaming at us to add their fed. So once it's been around for a couple of years, it's fait accompli. We're going to have to add it. But if you come to us and say, I'm starting a new federation, our answer is no. There's no need for it. We haven't got the capacity for it. We can't do it. And that's the same for an untested, an unsanctioned meet. We're doing it every day almost. We're doing an unsanctioned meet. Will you add it? No. And if it turns out after the event that the 5 biggest dot scores ever done were done at that meet, then maybe we're going to have to look at it again. But the go-to answer is we can't. Even in the UK, there's gym meets, unsanctioned meets happen every weekend in our tiny, tiny little island. If you project that over the whole world, then we're full of, meets that have debatable provenance. It might be great, might be absolutely perfect, might not be, but we don't have the capacity to go and check that out. And even if you've got a celebrity referee, that doesn't really tell me anything. If you've got a referee from this federation, 2 from that federation, and it's an unsanctioned meet, what are the rules? Have you got a rule book? Do all those referees agree what the rules are? Do we even know what they are? So yeah, so it's difficult, and not everyone agrees with what we do. And sometimes they disagree with what we do before we've even emailed them back, which is not great. But I think you can't please everybody. We never wanted to be arbiters of the sport. We were all kind of quiet, shy, data dweebs. And we just wanted to, do our thing and get on with it. We never wanted to be arbiters of powerlifting, but we end up de facto having to make decisions like the new band shirts. Is that multiply? Is that unlimited? We had, there was a lot of bad feeling about that. A lot of federations still disagree with the way we do it. And just say, well, it's multiply. We're just going to put it in multiply. But then the community pops up and says, okay, well, that was done in a band shirt. Here's a video of it. So it wasn't why any of us joined the project. We didn't, none of us decided to give time to a data project in order to seek power. That is not a route that you would go. So it's hard when you get abuse for having been made to be an arbiter of whether a band shirt is multiply or not. So you have to come to a decision, and then, of course, half the people think you made the wrong decision. But at least it was a decision. We got there and we moved on. In
terms of the records, for instance, I could totally see, and this discussion came up, I think maybe a couple of years ago, where maybe open powerlifting should be almost a governing body of such to say this will stand, this will not, judging. But then I totally get where you would be like, look, we lose our credibility as a database. Then once you start judging and start becoming a governing body and get political, it's over now. Now
we don't want that.
You open the door for everyone to be like, aha, gotcha. Now I have some real gripes with you. Now I can come at you and be like, well, bang, bang, boom. If you just say across the board, here it is. We're taking them all in. And it's actually not us to clean up the sport. We will be the database. So if you look at it and see something you don't like, you have to clean up the sport elsewhere, other ways, other means. But as soon as it comes on us, we're not voted in. We're not even trying to be overly public who we are. You should be. If you're literally making decisions, wholesale decisions, they affect the entire community and the history, it would be like, okay, now what conversations do we have? What rule book do we follow? Do we have an EC? Do we vote these? What are we talking about here? We're starting to turn into our own federation. Like this, it's already crazy. It's already a heck of a lot. It's like, no, you know what? It totally makes sense. We're going to be a database.
We had an email. We had an email just last week, someone saying, with all the problems with the federations now, I'd like to propose we all unite under the Federation of Open Powerlifting. And everyone on the project was like, no, can we not? That is not what we're going to do. Because when we see the shitty lifts that go on, and we know that we're going to have to put that up, we all cringe a bit and it makes us a bit sad. But there's no way around it. If Federation has passed that lift, then it stands. It's in the history books. It's on their results. Even if 1,000 people send us videos like people do, saying, look at this lift, it wasn't standard, why have you included it? Well, send it to the Federation. Complain to the Federation about their standards. Until the Fed changes, we're not going to change what we do.
You're a mirror, essentially. Is like, if you see problems, do something, but we're not going to be the ones we can't do it. It's once you go down that path, you can't double back to just becoming here's the thing. There's something pure about just being a database, just collecting data and showing data. There's something pure about that where now people can't come at you because you're not making decisions on things like we vote this, we're overturning this, that, or whatever. It's in a sport where it's far more political than it needs to be. And there's so much going on like that. It's actually more refreshing. And when people think they want you to get political, they don't know what they're asking for. When you look at the climate and how political everything is for a sport our size, trust me, this is the best way to operate. It's like, you know what?
Well, it's not. It might not be clear to everyone, but we're called open powerlifting because it's open source. And what that means is that every single day we package up the whole project and put it as a download on our website. So you can have it. You can have it for free. You can stand up your own website with all the information you need. And then if you want to add some untested, unsanctioned meats to it, you're welcome to. You can do anything you like with the data. It's available for free. So we don't gatekeep any of it. The whole point of it is it's volunteer-led. We'll never take sponsorship. We'll never take advertising. So there's no undue pressure on us from anywhere, aside from just not liking advertising on the site. But you can have it. You can take the data. You can use it for whatever means you like. It's built into the core of the project that it's open source and it belongs to the community.
How amazing is it that we have that in the sport? Like if you guys never came along, it just would change everything. It feels like how often I go to open powerlifting, but how many sports out there who are roughly the same size as powerlifting have nothing like this? They have their federation but there could be several federations, even in other sports. And you'll have to go through like every single federation of every single nation to find out records, to find out results, to find out how crazy is it that we have this and how much of a gift is this?
And I think we can thank Sean Stangl for that. This was his vision, that we could record every lift done everywhere. And of course, we've got big gaps. We've got big gaps in Asia, where the alphabet is different. That gives us a lot of problems. Matt Pierce did a lot of work on Cyrillic alphabets and also kanji. But there's a lot more work to do there. So if we're not covering your country, and there's an issue with translations, with the site's translated into dozens and dozens of different languages. And that happens when a person from that country pops up and says, you haven't got the translation quite right here. So we're like, come in, help us,
Yeah.
put the translation right.
Yeah,
The
please.
best reason for anyone to come and get in touch and try and join the project is because there's something they want to do. The volunteers that don't stick around are those that think, okay, I want to give back, I want to help. What do you want me to do? And we kind of struggle with those people. The people that stick are the people that are beating on the door saying, let me in, I want to add this. You're not including my country, you're not including my federation, let me fix it. And those are the people that stick around. So if you've got a burning desire, a burning issue that we're not doing what you want, join the project, fix it. We don't have time to do it for you. Just come in and fix. It's like the story, isn't it, of someone who gets a job as a developer, and in his first week he fixes a problem and then puts his resignation in because he was just a user and he just wanted the problem fixing.
That's
That's
awesome.
what we need. If everyone came in and just fixed their own issues, we'd be away. We really would.
I want to talk a little bit about Sheffield, obviously, because we're doing that together. But before we do, though, I just want to pull up. So I saw that. I thought this was very interesting. I seen this. Let me pull this up here. The warm-up room on Instagram shared some, I believe this is from Open Powerlifting, some numbers that are pretty. I think I sent this to you in DMs. Arian, do you have this as well?
I've seen it before. I can pull it up right now.
Yeah, if you guys want to pull this up, we could take a look at it because I think it's pretty interesting. But essentially what they did, as you guys pull it up, I'll explain. It's they took a bunch of the data from all over the world and showed what it is to make the top 10% in the world.
Okay.
Is this accurate, Joe? Or I see an expression on your face. Let's go before we get.
There's always problems with data, isn't there? There's always problems. So where to start? So you always know someone who's taken a quick look at Open Powerlifting and not really understood the data when they tell you that the dominant style in America is single ply, because Texas high school powerlifting skews everything. So if you look at it, if you just extract the data with no core knowledge of what's going on, you'll look at that and you go, wow, single play is huge in America. And of course, we know that Raw is the dominant style. But if you don't know that Texas high school they have a league where every high school in Texas competes with every other high school in Texas every week in season. So that produces a vast amount of competition and a vast amount of entries that are going to skew everything you're looking at. So there's things you need to consider. Most people who compete in powerlifting compete once and then go away and never do it again. So there's going to be a huge chunk of data that are essentially beginners, people who gave it a try, wasn't for them, they went away. So if you're looking at an end-to-end cohort, a huge patch of them here really aren't the people you want to be looking at, because they weren't really powerlifters to start with. They just tried it out, didn't like it, never did it again. So do you want to drop those off? Have you excluded all the 7-year-olds that are in the youth? Have you thought about the different types of lifter that are in there? Because I think most people extract the data, they do a percentage, okay, that's it. But it's difficult to really make it meaningful. Should it be 10% of the lifters that have done a couple of competitions and maybe we can call them powerlifters? Should we be including the people that have only done one and are really beginners? Maybe. I don't know. I think we should definitely get rid of the people that are 7. They're probably skewing the data a little bit.
This is true. So then I guess we can't really look too far into this. What do you think?
I'm just looking, I'm reading the posts and I can't see any sort of methodology except for top percentage of lifters. So I think they've taken raw lifters and done a percentage. So, okay, that's fine. We need to understand that maybe the bottom 40% maybe aren't really who we're interested in. They may be little kids, they may be just beginners who tried out.
I mean, they could also be 70, right? They say regardless of age. So it's like if you're a 24-year-old, you're comparing yourself to like an 80-year-old or an 8-year-old. Yeah, you have to understand that it's still the data, but it is saying regardless of age. So it is pulling the averages down a little bit, I guess.
I think it's pulling them down a lot. But you have to, I mean, who would you want to be doing a percentage on? I mean, this is relevant, right? It's everyone that's powerlifting. So maybe it is relevant that they're just taking that whole cohort. I don't know. Their data's difficult. It's always difficult.
Yeah, because if you looked at purely at like people walking the face of the earth that have tried powerlifting or not, like if you want to know how do I stack up to everybody in powerlifting, as well as it'll give you an idea when you walk into a gym or just people like normal people walking around. A powerlifter, a competitive powerlifter is like, for them, it's ungodly what you're doing. They can't fathom. And this would help at least put a little perspective on that, because people on the street are of all different ages, backgrounds, whatever. And if you ever think like, what I'm doing is not that special, in that respect, it would be like, no. You compared to Gen Pop with 7 billion people walking around, you're a freak. If you put in hours and hours and hours every single day, every week, every month, you probably are like around in terms of strength athletes or in terms of top end strength. So maybe it is. I know what you mean though. So if it's
a difficult one. I've just looked the women's up, and I fall somewhere between 1% and 5%. And I'm a masters lifter. I've never competed in the open. I've competed in the masters at world level, but so is that right as an M2 that I'm between 1% and 5%? That feels a little bit inflated, maybe top 10%, but I feel like maybe I shouldn't be all the way up at about looking at a midpoint between those two, maybe 3%. That feels a little inflated to me.
It's tough. It is, and that's that's the thing with statistics. It can mean almost whatever you want it to mean when you start.
You can slice it in a number of ways.
Right.
You really can.
I'm not even in the top 10%, so it looks accurate to me.
Arian's like, I think the numbers actually are too hard. I don't know what you fucking guys are talking about.
Apparently that 7-year-old's stronger than me.
Yeah, you're like, John LaFlemme is killing me right now. Right? He's skewed everything.
But yeah, like Joe was kind of saying what data is like, is what do you want to look at? So maybe if you want to compare yourself to every single person in powerlifting history, including the people who do like token lifts to qualify for nationals, the people who maybe got injured on squat and took token lifts on bench and
That's
belt,
very true, actually. Yeah.
That shows you it. But then maybe it'd be interesting to see what if you just did like all the classic world championships? What's the average percentages there? Because people want to go to worlds and be competitive. This shows you like how competitive you would be at a high level competition.
That's a nice cutoff.
That's a moving field, though, isn't it? That moves on so quickly.
Yes, that's all.
Every year, people do so much more than we think. We watched in South Africa. We saw some incredible lifting. We saw Jess Bittner pull the biggest deadlift that ever was. But we don't think that's finished. We're going to come back to. We're going to go to Sheffield. We're going to go to Malta, and we're expecting them to do even more. And it does. The standard rises every single year, especially amongst the women's. I think the men's lifting, there's a lot more maturity in the field in men's lifting. Even 10 years ago, there weren't as many women doing it. So we're still looking for that maturity. So if you look at the world records, so many of the women's were in 2022. In fact, I was looking at that yesterday. Did you spot that every single total world record holder on the women's side is at Sheffield?
Is that right?
Yes, every one. That's just amazing, isn't it? In fact,
it just I wanted to start talking about Sheffield. This is a perfect segue. Thank you, Joe. You're amazing at this. But wow, so that just shows you how unique an event it is.
Tiff Chapon, Noemi Alibert, Jade Jacob, Leah Bavois, she's got the total in 2 classes. And then Carlina, obviously, and Amanda Lawrence and Benika Brown, they are all at Sheffield. Every world record, every total world record holder. That's incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, half of them are French. Have you noticed that as well?
The rise of France has been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Especially on the women's side in the last couple of years. Women. How did this, well, first off, how did you end up commentating in the first place? How did you find your way on that?
I didn't want to do it, essentially. I've always been quite shy and, lurk in the shadows, and I never really wanted to be the centre of attention. It was a real big thing, to be honest, to overcome going on the platform to lift. A lot of shyness to overcome just walking out there, especially at the World. You know what it's like. There's cameras, there's lights. It's a really scary environment. And I dealt with that by just looking at the bar. I walk out there and I'm looking at the bar and I never look away from the bar. And in 2018 Bench Worlds, something had gone wrong. I'm not quite sure what it was, but the Viva TV were there, but there were no commentators. There were no MCs. I can't quite remember what it was. Someone hadn't made something, or some flights hadn't landed. I can't quite remember, but they were looking for people to do it. And Joe, my husband Joe, did a little bit of commentary, and they said to him, "Well, it's better with two. It's always better with two." So he was saying, "Come on, do it with me, do it with me." And I kind of did it eventually to help out. And I really was very nervous about it. But within about 5 minutes of putting my headphones on, I was just watching the lifting and chat. I would have been doing this in the audience anyway, and chatting about, what was going on. And it was a quick bench as well, which is the thing I'm best at in powerlifting. So I just loved it. Within about half an hour, I just settled in. I was happy. I was chatting about what was going on, and I loved it. So I tried to get on wherever I went. Did a little bit in Calgary. I didn't do a session with you, I don't think. I did a couple with Gary.
Yeah.
At that one. And then what was next? What was after Calgary? I'm not sure. Maybe it was all the way through to Helsingborg. So we did some sessions at Helsingborg. I did one with you. I did some with Gary. Did some with Joe as well. And then Eric asked me to go to the Junior Equip Worlds as a solo commentator in Regina, because Gary couldn't make it for whatever reason. So I went and did that. That was an experience, doing 7 days end to end solo.
Oh my
bit of
God.
initiation by fire. But yeah, so then I was on the team, and been to quite a lot of things since then. Was at Halmstad. We were back to back in Halmstad for about 9 days, weren't we? That was a tough one.
Listen, when I see people make a post and they did commentary and it was a weekend, but maybe it was a long weekend, so they're like, I can't tell, I'm so exhausted, did 3 days of commentary and blah blah blah, and I'm like, that's cute. I've done 12 days on the other side of the world. So I'll fly to the other side of the world, lose a day, time zone change, 12 days. I mean, 70-year-olds, M4s, children, the whole nine, right to the open, and then fly back home. So we're talking like that's a wrap, man. And then
I think was it 9 days we were solo back to back doing different platforms, and then 3 days on the same one.
Yeah,
but I know that I was losing it. I was nearly psychotic by day crazy. 6. I really was.
And people in over the course of 12 days like that, and how many hours by yourself, etc., never once you're trying not to slip. God forbid you ever say a swear word or something, but just if ever you get something wrong, everyone will remember that. But it's like, absolutely. Do you realize how many hours, how many minutes, how many days in the stretch? It's insane. I remember afterwards, it was Richard who pulled me aside, Richard Hayward, and said, it's crazy what you guys are doing, because they've done Viva Television, who do the IPF Worlds, have been in television for decades. Sugar Ray is literally ageless. And
he broadcast the moon landings. That's how old Ray is.
Broadcast moon landings. And he was 75 at the time. So do the math. And he'll talk about, I remember I was just quick story here. Let me do a quick story time. When we were in 2017, and you there, Arian, at the banquet, I remember Big Z was there. It's Jonas Savickas. I wanted to talk to him so bad, but I was nervous. It's Jonas Savickas. And
he's
Richard's
lovely,
like,
though.
Yeah, he's amazing. And Richard's like, let's go talk to him. I'm like, no. He's like, come on. He goes, you know what? Every single guy in here wants to talk to him, but they're too afraid. And I bet you he's lonely and wants to talk to somebody. He's talking about Zajunas like Zajunas is a pretty girl. And I'm like, I don't know. You think so? He goes, he probably wants to talk to somebody, but everyone's intimidated. And I'm like, I'm going to go talk to Jonas Savickas. So I walk up to him like, hey man, we met before. I don't think you remember. And then we just started talking, right? Broke the ice. freaking and Richard, and I look back at like Richard, and they're like, "Yeah, you're doing great." Thumbs up, right? And, like I'm talking to that pretty girl. They're so proud of me. And then freaking Sugar Ray walks in between us and goes, I want to tell you about the time I was working with the BBC and met Mick Jagger. And I'm like, fucking Mick Jagger, I can't compete with Mick Jagger. I just, the journalist turned to Sugar Ray and they started having a conversation and I'm just out of the conversation. And I remember walking away and I'm like, oh man. Afterwards, Richard's like, Sugar, you know how long it took him to build up the courage to talk to Sir Judas? And he just walks over. Let me tell you about the time I was working with the BBC and met Mick Jagger. And I'm like, damn it, Sugar. You took my girl from me.
That's Viva TV keeping us grounded.
That's right. That's right. You can't compete with Sugar Ray. But I forget what we were talking about beforehand now.
Oh, do you know what though? While we're talking about commentating at Halmstad, it was about day 5, I think. And these were long days, weren't they? They were like 3 sessions a day. That the French guy had the strap under his outfit. I was commentating on that. And I saw all these comments afterwards, like, how did the referees not see any of this? And I'm like, man, we were 6 days in. I couldn't see a foot in front of me. And this guy ran on holding his wrist like this. And you think I was going to see something under his t-shirt. We had no chance.
This is the famous, anyone listening, he was in the Masters unequipped. And he was wearing equipment under his singlet.
It wasn't even real equipment. He taped a band to his arms and across his chest. You know, like a thick fitness band,
almost like a slingshot, but not as obvious.
It wasn't actually a slingshot, but it was. Yeah, he was looking for the same effect. Yeah,
and it looked like he might have also had knee wraps under his weird ass knee sleeves.
I'm not sure about that, but
we don't know for sure.
It might have had a super suit on under his singlet.
It was very bizarre, but it's not just the commentator. Every single person there, like this, you could easily say, like, why didn't the commentators know? No, everybody there. He did eventually get busted, by the way. It's just, it's some things are so bizarre. You're like, could that be? Nah, that's crazy.
And every time he came on, I'm like, oh, he's late to the platform again. He seems to be in a hurry. And he's holding his arm as he hurt his arm, but he was just trying to protect that he had all this equipment on. But the people that said it was obvious and we should have all seen that, you honestly, you have no idea.
Well, he got busted
5 days into that and you don't know what's going on, honestly.
Well,
he did.
I remember
quite a dramatic way. That video of the Italian coach following him around the building. That was hilarious.
It was amazing. The Italians went chest to chest with this dude. They chased him down and were like, "Oh my god!"
And then the guy went and locked himself in the toilet. Got in the building from the front, locked himself in the toilet, got all this stuff off, shoved it in a bin, and then came out like, "What?
Yeah.
What? What's the matter? What?"
And I remember like I was reposting it because obviously, like, okay, this is somebody who deserves to be shamed. And I remember somebody, I think it was coach, was like, please, don't post, don't share. I didn't know he was cheating. I'm like, yeah, come on, man. Come on.
The coach was rushing him out of the warm-up, putting a towel around him, rushing him back, which is why no one was seeing him. He wasn't hanging out in the normal warm-up space.
He was outside.
And that's why he was late to the platform every time, because they'd rush him through the space, throw him onto the platform,
and then take him right outside. There was a side door that he wasn't warming up with everybody else. There's a side door out of the warm-up room, and the Italians are like, why is this guy outside every single time? They saw it and they followed him out, and they're like, oh, busted. They're like, they're going to chase it out, and it's a situation. And I remember now what I was going to say is Richard telling me how in all of his years of television, decades of it, he's like, I don't know ever where somebody sits in the pocket like the commentators and do 9 to 12 days straight of live television for a week and a half straight every day. And some days are 12 hours.
Yeah.
These aren't 2 sessions, or we could have 3 sessions for it. It could be insane every day for 12 days. He's like, in all the television I do, I don't think I've ever seen anything like this. Oh. And it's kind of like the open powerlifting conversation where it's like, all right, so it's easy to throw shots, but you don't realize how amazing people are doing. It's like, holy fuck, but it's all over. Like, I can't believe I held it together. We did it. We high fives.
But the thing the people remember is the one thing you got wrong, the one thing the stat that you quoted that wasn't right, or the name that you said that wasn't the right way. That's the thing that people will talk to you about, not the 24 hours that you put in that was perfect, but there's a couple of little mistakes you made here and there.
Sometimes, some people, there are a lot of people who give hats off, but there are some people who are looking
True,
for something.
true.
Some people are looking for a little something. And then Sheffield. Let's talk a little bit about Sheffield, what we got you on. How excited are you? How did this come about for yourself? And then when you found out, what was your impression? What were you like? Oh my God, here we go.
Well, I've kind of been around in different functions with Sheffield because I worked for SBD. I was involved with this first time around. I changed jobs after lockdown. Essentially, I live maybe 10 miles away from Sheffield. So to hear this is talked about as an event, not the town that's 10 miles away, has been really odd. And to hear you talk about Sheffield as well, Ryan. Sheffield. That's not a thing. That's not a thing. That's not what we say. Sheffield. No.
No, I've been told. People like, don't say Sheffield. Some people, you hear it once or twice, and they're like, fuck, now it's in my head.
So if it's in Australia, it'd be Sheffo, wouldn't it?
Would it?
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah, the Aussies like to put an O on everything, but yeah, it's a weird one. So we've got, this is the second incarnation of Sheffield that's come around. This one's actually going to happen, which is fantastic. It was so close to lockdown, and we were a week from the competition when it got shut down. I'm sure you remember, which was really hard. So this time around, Pete asked Joe to be the announcer quite some time ago. But he asked me a few weeks ago if I was going to commentate as well. I knew that you were doing it as well. And of course, like I'm going to miss that.
You were like, look, not happy about having to work with Ryan again, but let's we'll
at least it's only one day this time.
That's right. They're like, just one day.
Yeah. It was a lot like we had the UK Arnold here in September. And that was phenomenal. There was lots of different sessions. There was bench, there was equipped, there was all sorts. But the women's raw session was without a doubt the best session of powerlifting I've ever watched, commentated on. It's absolutely superb. World records going all over the place. And Leah Bavwal put up the highest GL points that anyone has ever done. And Joy broke the deadlift record and the total record. And Carola Gara was right up there as well. She traded the world record total with Leah Bavwal for a little while. It was just the most phenomenal competition I've ever seen. And all those people are going to be lifting again in Sheffield. So this is like the whole World Championship compressed into one day, which is absolutely phenomenal for me. And we get some of those battles to go again. Some of the ones that were really tight in South Africa get to go again. The 93s is going to be really crazy. The Joy in the 57s is going to be amazing. Interestingly, she's actually lifting the British Nationals is the week before Sheffield, which is an odd bit of timing. And Joy is lifting, or she's on the roster to lift.
That'd be crazy.
At Nationals the week before, and she's going to lift at 63.
That's still crazy, though.
Yeah, well, I don't know why she's doing that. Whether has to put a performance in.
Unless
I really don't know, but it seems mad.
Like, unless there's like you said, maybe she has to. She'll do some token, show up, token here, token there. Or if the week before she normally does some heavy singles, this is actually totally normal.
Maybe this is her last warm up. Yeah.
And she's like, look, it's going to be my normal heavy singles. I'm not good, but she better not go beyond that, because I'll tell you what. Well, to your point, in terms of all of the competitions coming around this year, Arnold Classic, phenomenal roster. Obviously Worlds, USAPL, Mega Nats, great rosters. But in terms of in one day, head to head, not a calculator, not like, let's be honest, a calculator's fine, but there's nothing like a good old fashioned head to head. You look at what happened in South Africa, that session of the 76s with Agatha versus Jess and the 93s was all one session. And that might've been, in all my years and all my sessions of commentating, the best session I've ever done in my life. In Sheffield, head to head, no calculator, no nothing, 493s head to head like that. Agatha, Carlina, in Jess in
The
the 76ers.
76s, I don't want to take it away from a whole bunch of phenomenal athletes, because we've got the best lifters, some of the best lifters in the world. They're all incredible. They're mostly record holders already. But the 76s for me, I love Agatha Shitko. I've been following her career since she started out. I've commentated on or written about just about everything she's ever done. And to see her go really force Jess into doing something so incredible was amazing. It was just absolutely brilliant. And then we get to do that again, but now we've got Carlina.
The terror. The 76-kilo terror. She's a problem.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how this is going to go. It's really hard to get a sense for Agatha where her training is, because she's equipped half the week, she's raw half the week, she trains every day and competes every weekend. I don't know. It's really hard to really get a sense of where she is. But I think Carlina's got momentum. I do. I think she's but she's coming the furthest. She's coming a very, very long way. So I hope she's coming early.
Carlina, for sure, it could be a coming out party for her, as well as in terms of showdowns, head to head. Again, all in the same day. Joy versus Jad was a fucking phenomenal showdown at IPF Worlds. I mean, right down to the very last deadlift, an amazing battle.
It was half a kilo, wasn't it? Yeah. But Bobby Butters was only 2 kilos behind them again. And I think not having Bobby here, I would have loved to see that. And she's local. I would have loved to see Bobby in there.
Maybe she's an alternate. Who knows? But hopefully nobody drops out. So we won't have to go there. But if you look at Jad Jacob and Joy, though, half a kilo separated them at Worlds. And since then, Jad Jacob and Joy still half a kilo separates them at the world record. So for the total. So in terms of showdowns, head to head, Sheffield is absolutely stacked with already proven entertainment in the same weight class. And then on top of that, we got these ladies and gentlemen, like on the gentleman's side, Jesus Oliveras, Taylor Atwood, etc., who are just going to rewrite history books and what they're going to do. Jesus Oliveras has ambitions of breaking the tested and untested world records and possibly being Taylor. Taylor wants to do something that is going to reaffirm himself as the king of powerlifting. And then all the women that broke in these world records. It's crazy.
I don't think anyone's got the possibility of getting the full payout, have they? You'd need to win and get the record in squat, bench, and deadlift in order to get the full 40K. I think. There's 25K for winning, and then you get 5K for world records. You don't get anything for the total world record, because that's how we're ranking the whole competition. But 5K for squat, bench, or deadlift. And I'm just kind of looking at the records now, and I don't think even Taylor Atwood can clean sweep it to 40K, because he can't take the bench record.
What are you saying, Aaron? Can you think of anybody, sir?
I was trying to think of who the closest person would be, and it might be would it be Amanda or Bonica might be like the closest.
See, I don't think Bonica will either. I think the bench is out of range for Bonica, since Mahalia Reeves knocked it up to 164 or thereabouts. So I think and I don't think she's near the deadlift record either, is she? So I don't think even Bonica will.
Yeah, I think maybe she's like attempted it before. I don't remember, because she's done like around 250 or something before. But yeah, I was just thinking of the people, the closest would be, I guess Amanda's kind of far with the bench now. So it might be Bonica, I think, would be the closest to be able to attempt all of them. But yeah, I don't think anyone's going to be able to do it.
It's a testament to how competitive powerlifting is, though, where no one person's that dominant a force.
Even Taylor Atwood isn't going to clean sweep the whole set. Unless he's put a lot on his bench recently, he might have.
Yeah, apparently, what did he bench at that? He did like an exhibition lift, and it was crazy big bench.
Yeah,
I forget what it was, but it was insane. So he has put on his bench now.
Okay,
he didn't squat first and max out on squat.
I was gonna say he's around, I think, like 200, but from 200 to 212.5, it's a bit of a reach.
It's a big ask. I mean, probably not. We're just talking who might. It's a possibility, but he's trying to build his total, so I don't even know if you gamble for that. He wants to win the whole pie. He wants to be the king once again. And the classic reply when Bob Matthews finished 2022 with the highest dots, Taylor and posted it was December that he competed, and he posted, and Taylor Atwood slid into the comments and said, "Only because I let you." And it was like, oh, damn.
Do you know what, though? This does bring up the issue that some people didn't do their best at the World Championships. They didn't max out, really, in order to save it for Sheffield. And I think that's a little bit of a flaw in the way it's set up. I mean, this is the first time out. We can work on it, right? We can do this better. But I think that people should be doing their best at the World Championship. It's what the fans want. The fans don't want to see you holding back. So we need to sort of tweak the format or the timing, maybe, so that people still want to go all out.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it works, because even and this is the beautiful thing about like something like Sheffield, for instance, is this time around you use records for something unique and to maximize it. And you know, if you use dots, a guy like Jesus is like, dots murders me. I have no chance. Thank you very much. Whereas, so there's no, essentially what I'm saying, there's no like clear best way. However, with Sheffield, because it's fluid, what I like is they stack the deck with head-to-heads as much as they could. So we have all the best head-to-heads we could possibly make. Like we got, maybe not all, but obviously we have a good solid base. We already know Joy and Jad already proven phenomenal, and since then are still neck and neck. We already know 76 is phenomenal, 93s. These are guaranteed. It's so stacked, you're guaranteed action. It's going to be good. Now, moving forward, the reason why Sheffield's special is they can be like, all right, that worked there. What's next? How do we do it next time? Maybe they do more head-to-heads and don't worry about who knows if they're using dots, IPF, whatever.
Maybe this isn't on Sheffield to change. Maybe we just need someone to be challenging those people at the top, a little bit more competition. It's only the people that are kind of walking away with their class that could afford to hold back a little bit. But you know, it's 9 months between Worlds and Sheffield. You can get half a kilo stronger. Go for it.
Because people could say, you're right, maybe because it's for someone like Taylor Atwood, for instance. Historically, period, I've known, because I've been burned with this, how many times I try to hype up a showdown. This is the year someone's going to push Taylor. This is the year, like at USCPL NAS 2019, I learned my lesson hard, and it just never happens. Taylor, it doesn't matter. It's one of these deals where there's nothing you can do about it sometimes. If he wants to hold back or he wants to go all out, you know, he's just so far ahead of everybody else. But on the flip side, people emerge. Oh my God, Carlina just came out of nowhere, it seems. And now what are we doing here?
The interesting thing there is we haven't seen her really challenged. What's she like under pressure?
Right.
If she needs her final deadlift, is the stress going to get to her? Is the nerve going to go? I mean, what Jess Bittner did coming out for that deadlift was just incredible, honestly, because the pressure of that, no one has ever lifted this weight before, but you need that to win. The pressure of that moment will make or break you, I think. Jess Bittner rose to the challenge, but I don't think we've seen Carlina tested like that.
Oh, we haven't. Here's the thing. The Commonwealth Games, while an international competition with international judging, and that's an official world record because of it, was in New Zealand. It was in her home country in terms of travel and all the rest of it. It was not an issue in terms of being pushed by, and not only is Jessica Bittner and Agatha obviously world-class, they're both world champions, but Jess might be the biggest star in women's powerlifting. When she competes, all eyes on it. When Jess posts hundreds of thousands, like it's crazy the traction she has. There's going to be a lot of heat in that kitchen. So to your point, you're going to get pushed, and Jess is battle tested. When you're in the back and it's like, you got to pull for the win. What am I pulling? Well, it's the biggest deadlift we've ever seen in history. But
a little bit more than you've done before.
but exactly. Or anybody in history. And Jess is like, load it up. And we already know. So that can't be like, in terms of what that does to you, it'll rob you of your sleep. It'll rob you of your appetite. It'll rob you of your performance if you're not worried. Even just that day, you expend so much more energy when you're nervous. And when people start gassing out by deads and like, oh, I don't know, deads just didn't show up. You know, like, how much were you eating? Because I've been back there with people and they're like, I'm like, you should eat something. I'm not hungry. I know you're not hungry because you're nervous as shit, whatever. But literally calories are a unit of energy. You need energy, right? Or the whole thing. How have you been sleeping? Everyone knows sleep and performance. have you not been sleeping all week? Because this is the biggest meet of your freaking life. It's the biggest meet in powerlifting history. This is, to your point. Yeah. This will be a lot different. And that's okay. She might rise to it and be like, fuck, she rose like a champ. Or it could make it a whole lot more interesting. I don't know.
I feel like she's got this huge amount of momentum. I feel like her 600 wasn't maxed out. I think there was mistakes made. I think she can do more. I think the travel's going to be hard on her, but I think I'm really excited to see her at Sheffield. You know, I love Agatha Shitko.
Yeah.
I haven't seen. I don't know if she's keeping her training under wraps. I haven't seen a huge amount of it.
Same.
But I don't tend to stay on top of everything because there's so much going on. I've got so many different jobs. So I don't tend to stay on top of where everyone is on Instagram. Before a competition, I'll kind of sit down and spend a day looking through, checking through people's training and things. But people like Agatha, I keep up with quite regularly, and I just haven't seen any huge lifts from her at all. So maybe that's all a bit hush hush at the moment.
I like it.
Yeah.
I was going to mention too, it would be interesting as far as the coaching aspect, because Dominic coaches Carlina, he also coaches Joy. So I don't know who else is bringing to help him. Even if you do bring someone to help you, if you know your lifter the best, you know your lifter the best. So like while you're trying to talk to Joy and figure out your battle with Joy against Jad and overall whatever, and you're like trying to put a change in whatever, like you have to then go get Carlina ready depending on what the order is. They might be back to back or one lifter in between and stuff like that. So like you can't spend too much time on one lifter. You have to get your other lifter too. So you have to be balancing that out.
Well, I wonder if Joy will have Paul Marsh, because he's coached her a lot in the past, and he's a very familiar figure. He's coached her, I think, at Worlds last year, certainly Worlds in Helsingborg. So maybe he'll be there to
Could be,
help
since
out.
they each get a coach. But like I know myself as a coach, like these are like my lifters, and he's been with Joy for so many years that like you would still want to be there for the moments and make all decisions and get them ready. So like you have to balance that out as well. So that's going to be an interesting aspect.
Have you decided yet? Are you going to come and watch?
I'm figuring it out. I'm going to the Dominican Republic Nationals to help them out, and I was trying to set up a seminar, everything like that. So I'm finalizing that because that's the weekend after Sheffield. I'm trying to figure out those dates to see if I can fit both in. But I have been looking for plane tickets. I've been looking at hotels. I've been talking to Pete about getting a ticket and everything like that. So it seems more and more likely. I just got to finalize it and decide, do I want to spend the money?
Nice.
But I think it's going to be cool. Like, you never know what's going to happen, if there's going to be the only one or whatever like that. But you're assuming this is going to be a regular thing every year in the UK. Maybe in the future they do other places as well. But to say like, hey, I was at the very first Sheffield. I was there when these lifters battled out, blah, blah. I was there when this lifter won however many thousands of dollars or whatever. Then it'd be cool to be able to go and experience that.
It would be cool. It would.
How many 95s do we have, or 93s do we have in here?
It's some... I want to say 5, but that sounds crazy.
Sorry, I forgot about Amar.
Because it's Chance, Krastev, Kaiko, Gavin, and Amar.
I was going to say, is someone going to run to the 105s to get away from all that? But I don't think there's any space to run to in the 105s.
And that's
the
where
records are crazy.
Yeah, and that's where their money is, because Amar and Gavin can take the squat, Kaiko can take the bench, Chance can take the deadlift. Krastev, I think, can also take the bench, possibly. His bench seems to be really strong. And then Krastev, Chance, Kaiko, Gavin could all take the total.
Yeah, that 93s, Gavin's hit 880 before. All those guys are capable. I don't know. And looking at what they're saying in the stories and in their captions and what they think they're capable of doing on that day, we're looking at 900 kilos and up, quite possibly. And several of them could do this. Now, depends on what happens on that day, I know. But holy smokes, man, the 93s, like it is going to be a straight 4-way battle there. And Amar looking to take a record along the way as well. Like Amar isn't going to be up there on total, but he's a threat for a record as well. And he's capable to put on some big lifts as well. The 93s is super stacked. And talking about the 105s, just recently in terms of Emil Norling, what he did at the Swedish Nationals with a 928.5. It'll be interesting to see the rematch between him and Michael Davis. USA's Michael Davis, he's got an opportunity here. You know, some people weren't sure, is he going to get that wild card? And now that he's got the wild card, I mean, Emil Norling looks on point, but he's 6 weeks out and he maxed out on those lifts. Those were not.
He did. Yeah, and I don't think they're super close to the records in the 105s either.
That would be Anatoly. Yeah. So it's 9, well, kind of, sort
And
of within 10
Becker's
kilos.
deadlift at 390. So
Yeah.
yeah, but he's maxed out at 10 kilos. He's not going to get 10 kilos stronger. I'm thinking about Emil. He's not
Right.
going to get 10 kilos stronger in 6 weeks, is he?
I wouldn't say no for sure, because I've seen crazy things in my life. Like, where did that come from? It is 10 kilos, so it's not the craziest, but nonetheless, the battle. So here's what I do like about this as well. And this is another showdown that we got to mention as well that I didn't mention off the hop, but the Michael Davis, Emil Norling showdown, even in of itself, even if there isn't a record, the fact that those two gentlemen and Sheffield and SPD did a good job recognizing, look, Anatoly's not in this mix, and maybe a record isn't on the table there. So let's bring a showdown. Because I tell you what, I love seeing records fall, but I also like a good steady back and forth right down to the very last dead. And those two battled it at Worlds, and it was a beautiful scrap right down to the deadlifts. They're going to push each other. Whether or not Norling or Davis gets the world record, I'm not sure, but we're guaranteed they're going to scrap, and it's going to be entertaining. So
that gives us everything really, because we've got the head-to-heads battles, but we've also got classes like the 93s where all the records could go. 105s maybe not, but we've got some head-to-head action. And we've got people out on their own really, like Taylor Atwood. Is he really going to get challenged by anyone? But is he going to pick up the full quota of records? So I think there's plenty going on there. There's lots of different aspects all going on at the same time.
Yeah,
which will be interesting. A bit hard to keep on track of, Ryan. I hope they've got some good data for us.
Oh, hey, I'm gonna be so crazy, stupid prepped. We'll have conversations leading into it just to alleviate our anxiety to be ready. But yeah, like Taylor, you can't really. There's not too many people you could bring in for him, certainly in his weight class. But there is the whole look at what he did at USAPL 2021 Nats. There was nobody there to push him, but Taylor. There's certain people that are special. So Taylor Atwood could show up. You're not going to find anyone who can push him in his weight class, but if he puts on a special day, you're witnessing, like, everybody will remember the 2021 Nationals performance he did. If he does something like that at Sheffield, you're not going to want to miss it. There's no one you could have brought in for head to head, but you're going to walk away like, I can't believe what I witnessed history. His 2021 Nats might be the finest powerlifting performance I've ever seen. If not, it's got to be in the top 5. It's remarkable. Same with Jesus Oliveras. There's nobody really, like, he's so good right now. However, if he has an opportunity of taking the untested, tested, or just being the greatest super heavyweight performance, single super heavyweight performance we've ever seen, period, that is special. That means he might be the strongest powerlifter we've ever seen, period.
So he's close to the total record, is he?
I believe. Well, I don't know if he can, but it's a possibility. It's one of those. It's a push. It's a push, but it's within range. It's within reason. Looking at some of the stuff he's done in training, and also remember his age. I mean, he's young. His rate of adaptation and training is phenomenal.
No, you're right. He did 11:10, didn't he?
Last year. Essentially, whether Jesus is against someone or not, you can't not see history of the greatest, strongest powerlifter we've seen, possibly doing the biggest feat we've ever seen. Like, how do you?
No, I think you're right. I think
yeah,
I think the 11:10 he did would take it, wouldn't it? It'd take the world record.
And he's been talking about, like, maybe doing another 15 kilos on that squat, another 15 kilos on that bench, and then whatever he needs for deadlift. So that would already be more than that. So he doesn't even need to do that much more than that.
He didn't have his best day in South Africa. So what happened for him then? Was it travel?
He was injured as well, though.
Was he? Okay.
So a hip injury, which actually made it difficult, like extending out, like locking out on deads. Like, we had him on the podcast afterwards. He didn't want to say a whole lot of it at the time. Sounds like an excuse, but as time passed, he could be like, okay, here's full disclosure. But having said that, yeah, the beautiful thing about Sheffield, you got the head-to-head matchups, and then the singular performances like Jesus and Taylor. It's like, how do you miss? How do you miss? Those guys doing what they're going to do when it's history. Like, it feels like there isn't going to be tell me another one single day in powerlifting on the calendar that can match this. It's crazy. Like, matchup head-to-head matchup, no calculator needed. It's stacked. And then, oh, by the way, do you like seeing crazy, stupid records fall that are just like everyone's going to talk about the next day, and you know it? It's so stacked. It's Yeah, I'm getting a
So,
little
what
excited.
are you saying for the biggest? Because the winner is the one who broke the total world record by the most, essentially by the biggest proportion, isn't it?
Well, here's the
That's how you
thing.
win.
Jesus said, listen to, and Arian, you were there on the podcast. Jesus said, I know people are saying it's Taylor. It's going to be Taylor, right? He's like, let me tell you something. If Taylor shows up batting around 815 to 820, which is ridiculous, he's the only 74, 75 in the world that could do this. So it's just ridiculous for him to be able to do 815, 820. However, if he shows up and does around there, which is crazy, Jesus is like, crunch the numbers. I think I might be able to take Taylor. He thinks he might be able to win this.
1150, 1145, something like that he'd need. If Taylor got that total.
Right. And what's the biggest he said done so far?
1110. And he'd need 1145. But if Arian was talking about he's got 15 kilos on his squat and whatever else.
I mean, that's 30 kilos right there. Like it's like when we're talking about a 30 to 40 kilo jump, we're already in the 1,100 kilos. Like percentage wise, I realize when we talk, like this isn't like somebody in the 700 to 800 kilo range. This is someone who's 1,100 kilos. So 30 to 40 kilos when you're up there, percentage wise is the same jump as when we talk about these other individuals doing these percentage jumps. Yes, it's ambitious, of course, but in terms of like, could this happen? Yes. Yeah. We've seen. Look, leading into 2021 Nats, no one would have thought Taylor was capable of doing 838.5. Everyone was like, that's ridiculous. You're a fool to say that. Who knows? And Jesus is young. He's like 24. In terms of putting on 40 kilos to his total, he's like, what are we talking about here? I've done these jumps already. I don't know. It would be insane if Jesus, A, wins Sheffield, B, takes tested and untested and becomes the single biggest performance we've ever seen by any powerlifter, period. What a story would it be for that young man? And that is on the table. The only way you're going to know is if you watch. How the frig do you miss that? How do you miss that? You know, sorry, go ahead, Darren.
I was just gonna say the other thing for Jesus is for the 84 plus and the 120 plus, you don't have to worry about cutting weight. So everyone else has to travel and cut weight, but for the way this weight is scored, you don't have to cut weight. So Jesus has a whole year from when he did the nationals last year, hit that 1110, to put on more muscle, not worry about weight cutting, eat as much as you can going into the meet while traveling. And so you get a little bit of benefit there.
And this is to the point of Sheffield, the way they set it up, and there's no best way in terms of formula. But what I do like is that because dots would murder Jesus and GL points, he just can't win. But what I do like is that they actually set it up so the big man who might put forth the biggest performance we've ever seen could be crowned the Sheffield champ. And it's actually, he's got a far better chance with this setup. And I actually like that as a purist who's like, look at kilos is what it's all about in the end of the day. In the fact that the biggest, strongest ever, if he puts forth the biggest performance we've ever seen in powerlifting, I hope that is in contention to win the tournament. And using another formula, he would not be in contention. So that's why it's like, you know, you're never going to win it all. There's pros and cons to it all, but at least for this year one, I'm happy with this. Year two, you know, we reevaluate, they'll reevaluate whatever it is, what it is. But I am crazy excited about it. And yeah, I don't know. It's
the least distance I will have to travel to do any commentary ever.
Yeah,
I think it is literally just over the hill over there.
That is crazy. It's people asking like, why is it called Sheffield? Because I think the plan was, it's like Wimbledon. It's like that. It's like every year, same city, doesn't travel, doesn't move. It's not like IPF Worlds or whatever.
Well, it's the home of SBD. They live
and it's
Sheffield.
The home, yeah.
Yeah.
And hopefully it has its place in history on the calendar where you just say the name of this city and you know, and it doesn't move around, doesn't change, doesn't whatever. It's Wimbledon. It doesn't stay. It's not the US Open. It's yeah. So if that's the plan, but yeah, we'll see. I'm crazy, super duper excited. Arian, let me double back on is there any questions that you might have had, sir, that we didn't get in there? I know we've been chatting. We've already crushed 2 hours, by the way.
Yeah, I was gonna say we went through a lot.
Yeah, it's been Joe, we got to have you back first off.
Okay.
Back on the podcast. We crushed 2 hours pretty easy, but we had a lot to cover in terms of open powerlifting, etc.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think
it's great, to be honest. I think it's the first time anyone's ever come out and talked openly about open powerlifting. We're like people who hide in the shadows. And we talked about doing a Reddit AMA at one point, but we never got around to that either. So this is the first time one of us has come out and really talked about it. So that's great for the opportunity. Thank you.
I was
Yeah,
gonna
well,
say, Ryan, I
sorry, go
guess you
ahead.
can mention how to do the Patreon, how to like donate to Open Powerlifting.
Oh, okay.
Good point.
Yeah, so we have a Patreon, and it is on our website under support us. So if you go to patreon.com, join Open Powerlifting, and the supporters rank is it's $3 a month, but if you send us $3.50, you can say it's about $3.50. And you get nothing else, it's just $3.50.
Look at, I mean, in terms of giving back, look at everybody who wants to see change and see progress or see all these updates and whatnot for $3, $3.50 a
And that's
month.
how you get the colors on your name or
That
whatever.
is how you get the colours on your name. You can have any caps, any sort of font you like, any colours. We can do your name in bright pink, Ryan, just for you.
Worth the money already. Worth the money already. I'm going in. Although I don't think I'm updating my. You won't see any more results coming out of me, but that's
Yeah,
fine.
Ryan, I haven't seen you lift in Helsingborg. Maybe is that it?
Helsingborg. That's right.
Are you done?
At least for the time being. I mean, it depends. I had some injuries, and then since then, like I'm still lifting on the regular, but lifting, the big thing is when you peak and there's a competition coming up and it's on the calendar, you can't just, if something starts flaring up, you have to kind of work through it, at least to an extent. You could load off a little, but that nationals or worlds isn't going away. You can't shift the time. So you have to stay on course. And then that's when an injury would happen. And since then, not competing, but just lifting, if something flares up a little, like if it's deads in the hips, I just take out deads for a couple of weeks and I'm smashing squats and bench and we're good. Or if something with whatever it is, you keep rotating, you could just keep going on forever. And I haven't missed a training day since, because there it is. So when I'm feeling good, I'm like, oh man, maybe I should think about it. Then I start getting, I start remembering the injuries.
But it's hard, isn't it? It's hard to lift and commentate or cover a competition. It's hard to do both.
Well, like the worst was commentating, competing at, like I've done open worlds as well. And that sucks because you miss, you're competing. So you miss commentating on like a massive. So I did 2017 open world. So at the very least, I almost missed Brett Gibbs versus John Hack, and I commentated it instead. Can you imagine? I went to a world championships 1 year sooner and missed that commentary. Yeah. Like it would be, you got to make some tough decisions. And then I've also been in the case where competing later in the week and you're freaking water loading and you're on the air.
At World Masters, I was on the last day, next to the last day. So I was commentating like, I don't know, 8 days, and then I lifted, and that was hard.
Yeah, it's really you're exhausted and you're it's tough to do it all. But to have your cake and eat it too, so to speak. But anyways, listen, Joe, thank you tons. We still got to talk about like articles and stuff. We're trying to get our ducks in a row on our end. Yeah, but sure. Much appreciated for everything you do in powerlifting, period. I'm glad you came on. We got to do this again. We got to have you back on. I'm going to see you
in Sheffield.
We're going to be out for Sheffield. I don't want to get too excited because I'm going to start losing my sleep. I'm that guy. But anyways, everybody listening, as per usual, whatever platform you're listening on, please do subscribe. Please do give us high ratings. And when you subscribe, you don't miss these episodes. Some people are like, when did that episode come out? Well, you should have on this person. We had on that person. You missed it. Don't make sure you don't miss these episodes. Make sure you subscribe, and you can tag us in your stories. We will repost. And until next time, 6-pack Lapadat, 6 up, and we are out.